Are you watching The Simpsons?
Yeah.
Are you?
It's good, mate. Take him to
The Simpsons used to be absolutely huge, possibly the biggest piece of media on the planet when it first started airing. The show was one of the first of its kind to come along, featuring a dysfunctional family: Homer, Marge, Lisa, Bart and Maggie, alongside a crazy town full of nutty residents and nonsensical storylines. The show had a lot of heart too though, and I think it was this that made the show funny, but also sweet to a lot of people in the 90s. Unless you're me.
Yeah, I watched a tiny bit of The Simpsons when I was really young, but not enough to really enjoy it. I got into it in the mid-2000s, which is when it arguably started to go downhill. I still enjoyed it though. It wasn't one of my favourite shows or anything, but it was still an easy tea time watch while I was eating friggin' turkey dinosaurs. What got me into The Simpsons more than I would have though is the game we're going to talk about today, Simpsons Hit Run. You see, around 2004, me and a friend of mine, Thomas, were on the hunt for a sandbox game where you could drive around but also explore the world on foot. Pretty much Grand Theft Auto, but without it being Grand Theft Auto, because our mummies won't let us touch it. It was actually the PS1 game Driver 2 that kicked this search off for us, after seeing a friend of ours playing it at their house. The fact that you could drive around in a car then suddenly decide to get out and explore like an adventure game was absolutely mind-blowing. Back then of course, the only information we got from games in the immediate moment was the blurb and the pictures on the back of the cases in the shop, so it wasn't exactly an accurate representation of what the game was like. Hell, I can't even read this one. Because of this, I ended up getting Runabout 2 while Thomas got the Getaway. Neither of these games featured what we were looking for, so mine got thrown in the bin, but I'm pretty sure he got grounded for playing an 18 rated game. Get right, Thomas. But God soon answered our prayers and bestowed upon us something that was under our noses the whole time: The Simpsons. Hit and Run is pretty much a Grand Theft Auto game with a Simpsons skin. Not to say that that's a bad thing, mind you, because the game is very faithful to the source material, with tons of gags and Easter eggs from the actual show. Everyone from the cartoon reprises their roles here in a story penned by the show's writers themselves. You can tell the amount in which the creators and cast were involved by the fact that writers wrote every line in the game and the cast apparently recorded a season's worth of lines. With that in mind, the narrative follows a pretty standard setup for an actual episode, Homer popping out to get some of the new
shiz, that clearly is not a Coke can.
And it's soon spiralling it into an alien conspiracy.
I know it's a cliche, but ay caramba!
Every level has its own mini-story contributing to the bigger picture, with each one leading on from the last. Like after Bart gets kidnapped at the end of level 2, level 3 has Lisa out looking for him, as well as investigating the strange happenings around the town. It's a decent story, with the interactions between the characters obviously being the thing that makes it so enjoyable.
Apu, you've got to help me warn Krusty about this alien plot and thus save the good people of Springfield.
I'm sorry, sir, but I cannot speak English. I only speak Hindi.
But you're speaking English now.
Yes, I learned these words phonetically.
Well, you're just scared of being vaporized by the space monsters.
Up, down, go hot dog, butter my undershirt, blah, blah, blah.
The transition from show to video game is seamless here, which is just a testament to how good a licensed game can be when the creators want to get involved.
But how does the game play? Well, let me tell you, Sonny Jim.
The game is very similar to GTA, but instead of one big sandbox world, the game is split into 7 smaller worlds, with each sporting a different location in Springfield and a different playable character, with you being able to play as Homer, Bart, Lisa, Marge and Apu, with the last 2 levels having you play as Bart and Homer again. I think there's actually a really solid amount of characters to play as here, and you can even have other characters like Cletus and Grandpa driving you about too when you unlock their vehicles. They were my favourite ones to use because you just get more Simpsons charm, which is abundant throughout everything in the game.
3, 2, loser says what?
What?
Ha ha! 1, go!
Just look at Marge's run animation. No wait! Put down those scissors! The worlds are perfect size too, not being too big to get lost or never be able to find anything, but not too small so you find everything straight away. There was a ton of stuff packed into these levels, with everything easily kept track of with the level progress screen, telling you everything you have left to find and do, and even letting you know what percentage of the world is finished for you completionists out there. And if you want to replay the missions again, maybe to see the cutscenes or just have some fun, the game conveniences you by letting you go back and play them with ease, being able to choose the level and mission straight from the menu at any time. Some of the collectibles can require some simple puzzle solving or platforming, which isn't too challenging, but the variety of gameplay here can be quite varied. Admittedly, sometimes the platforming can be a bit pants when it's requiring you to make a tight jump or some specific movement, but overall it's really not bad. When I said about each level having a different location too, that's only half right. Some levels share their location with others, but the time of day will be different, and certain areas that were locked off in other levels will become explorable here, so it's different enough to not be completely lazy. There's even more to find in the form of bonus missions, which reward you with a new car, usually fitted with the character who gave you the request. There's also collector's cards with references to the actual show on them, clothes to buy which also relate to the show, and they can even create their own wacky moments like this.
Millhouse? What are you doing here? Lisa, what a coincidence! Hey, is that a new dress? No, I've been wearing this dress for years.
There's even a secret vehicle to find in every level, which are all pretty weird. You get to drive an RC car for crying out loud.
Hey, Buzz! You're flying! This isn't flying, this is falling with style.
It's really unfortunate that you can't actually save these cars when you find them, since all the cars that you receive in the game bar the pedestrians, you get saved to the telephone boxes, which are placed plentifully around the town, making it easy to get a ride if no cars are in sight. You can also view their stats here, which I would have loved to have seen for the secret cars. Not helping is the fact that if you lose them, you have to reload the level for the car to respawn in the exact same place you found it. It's also kinda odd how it's easier to change your vehicle than it is your clothes. Some clothes are required for certain missions, and if you aren't currently wearing the correct outfit, you have to go all the way to a clothes shop to get it changed. It would have been nice to be able to change clothes on the fly, and I don't think it would have been hard to implement either. The sandbox setting is perfect for the Simpsons nonsensical world, where kids can drive, the way to deal with being late for work is smashing your boss's car up, and I'm pretty sure I found the thief who stole Splatoon copies from that truck a few years ago.
A new violent video game has hit the streets, and we need to get rid of it before it warps any children with its bloops and bleeps.
But that game sounds awesome!
And therefore should be destroyed.
In fact, crime is always going on in Springfield when you're behind the wheel, and you want to be careful about filling up the hit and run meter, because once it's full, your wallet will be in
serious trouble.
And that's the way the game punishes you for getting caught by the police and getting hurt by stuff like the mechanical wasp cameras you see around Springfield, which get super aggressive in the later levels. You lose coins from this, which are required to buy cars from Gil, or costumes from certain buildings you can enter. So you gotta find that balance. It's not like it's hard to find coins, hell, pretty much everything you smash up gives you them, but if you do find yourself low on coins with not a lot left to destroy, you can enter these time trial races, which cost to enter but the payout for winning is double or even triple what you put in. Back before Peggy would twats about gambling.
Curse you, Dingleberg!
Things do get really pricey in later levels though, so if you don't want to end up grinding time trial races, do be careful about getting Chief Wiggum and company on your trail. I'll tell you what though, I've been playing this game for years and it's still challenging in places, with tight times missions for much of the story, and the street races even pit you against the character and the car from the next level, meaning they're most likely faster than you, which means smart driving and making use of shortcuts is all the more important. The game really teaches you the layout of the land from these missions and races, which helps when doing time trials because they're a full lap of the entire area. There are, however, some missions that are straight up bullshit, missions that give you more frustrating obstacles than fun ones to overcome. The two that come to mind are Never Trust a Snake from level 5 and Set to Kill from level 6. Never Trust a Snake has you do 3 phases of a mission in about 4 minutes. First you have to follow this truck while collecting what it drops, and then you have to collect these bins, and then head back to Snake. The problem is with following the truck, if he crashes into cars or buildings, and with some of the questionable AI at times in this game,
Rupert is great at driving.
that's time wasted and it's not your fault at all. It's just super unlucky for the cars being on the road at the time. It made this mission super frustrating for something that I wasn't in control of, and Set to Kill just as everything bad that you could possibly put together, culminating in a very unhappy
FATB.
If you struggle with the story missions, the game does give you an option to skip the one you're currently playing, but you'll need to beat all 7 of them eventually to get to the next level. If you don't give a shit about beating the game normally though, you can always try out the cheat Simpsons Hit Run offers. There's a load here, like being able to jump higher than Scooter could ever want you to. There's even one that lets you drive an unused car shaped like a Lego brick. Bless the days before DLC. There is multiplayer, but Christ, I wish there wasn't. It's in the form of this bonus game you can access on the main menu. It's a top-down racer that up to 4 players can play, but it controls exactly like the main game does, and in a top-down setting, it really doesn't control well. The only cars you can really use well here are the ones with good handling, but even then, because of the way they swing when they turn around corners, if your speed isn't right, it can be a super frustrating affair. Best off skipping this part in my opinion. You can unlock more tracks by destroying every wasp camera in a level, but really don't put yourself through that. The reward for getting all the collector's cards is much better, an exclusive Itchy and Scratchy cartoon. These days you can just view it on the YouTubes, but back then it was a pretty decent reward. The music is absolutely superb. Every level has its music completely catered to the playable character. Bart has high octane upbeat music for his mischievous antics, while Lisa has a soundtrack absolutely dominated by the saxophone. And of course Apu has some fantastic Indian-esque tracks that make me want to take away.
Is it wrong to say that? The game controls great. On foot it can be a little hard to turn sometimes with the characters running round instead of just turning round, which can make those platforming set pieces I talked about earlier pretty annoying, but the cars are brilliant, which makes sense since the developers Radical Entertainment made the last Simpsons game before this, Simpsons Road Rage. They took the driving mechanics from that game while everything else was overhauled. Since driving was the only thing they took, it's no surprise the cars have a great weight to them, and the physics of the game really makes you feel their suspension, and the feedback it gives really lets you know how hard you can turn the vehicle. They did a great job of not only making them look distinct, but feel distinct too. The visuals, however, can be a bit of a mixed bag. I personally think they look really good for a Simpsons game that isn't 2D animation. They could have gone for a more cel-shaded look, which I do think would have worked better, but if you look at other games that have used this style, like the Nicktoon games, I really don't think it looks bad here. Everything is still colourful and fits perfectly to how the Simpsons should feel. Even little things like damage to your cars add so much to the cartoony nature of the world. Hell, the loading screens are even full of charm and have some jokes in there. Unfortunately, the frame rate can be pretty here and there. For the most part, it's really on point and isn't bad, but it can dip pretty horrendously, most notably when the hover car is on screen, which means both driving it and driving against it can be a bit of a nightmare, which is a shame since it's one of the coolest cars in the game. I got Tucky to play while the hover car was on screen, and just look at that face!
Oh, bollocks!
When you finish a level, you're rewarded with an FMV cutscene, which is a really nice reward, and they also look great here. Again, it's not 2D animation, but with what they had to work with, they can still convey some good comedy here, even if it can be a bit stiff in some places. I think the voice work makes up any shortcomings in this area though, so I don't think it's a big deal.
Why, that sounds hilarious. I'd watch that show.
I tell you what, you're a bad little boy.
This is one of the best licensed games of an existing property I've ever played. You don't even need to be a Simpsons fan to enjoy this game. Hell, a lot of the gags I didn't even get, but you can just make your own fun out of it. The game does have its shortcomings. Hell, I didn't even mention how buggy the game can be.
And this is to go even further beyond!
But overall, you really owe yourself to play this, especially if you're a Simpsons fan or even someone who's too young for games like GTA. This is a perfect fit for you. You don't even steal cars in this game, you become their passenger. There was a lot of love and passion put into this project, proven even further by the fact that developers thanked their friends and families in the credits for supporting them through the challenging process of developing the game. I'm going to give this game a V4 out of V5. It's very faithful to the source material, has a ton to do, Springfield is a joy to explore, and the voice cast and jokes are on point throughout the whole adventure. And the music and visuals combine to make a great presentation. The game does have its fair share of issues, including some repetitive missions like, come on Cletus, how many times do I have to help you with your fucking harvest? There's also some bullshit in the story missions here and there, but you won't find a licensed property get a much more passionate adaptation than this one.
At least we don't have to sit through the stupid video game credits. No!